Good, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining the event today. I'm sure all of you guys have been involved in a digital transformation or led a digital transformation. Today, we're not going to be giving you the 101 spiel about transformation, but more importantly, I think if you were to ask an organization by function, by market, everyone has a different view on what exactly is digital transformation. Equally, was it successful? Like, how do you measure success? And it's all different. We have a group of panelists that are very distinguished and experienced that come from a wide range of backgrounds that will be sharing with you their experiences, perspectives, lessons learned on this topic. But before we begin, let me do a quick introduction of our panelists. So I'll start with Michael Cook. Michael is the former global head of marketing at AIG, responsible for building the consumer business through direct and digital channels. He started his career in telecommunication and banking before moving into insurance. Then we have John. John is phenomenal because he's ex-Accenture. I'm kidding. But John is the head of partnerships of APAC at Zurich, and he spent 15 years in the tourism industry before he entered insurance, and he's been in insurance for roughly 10 years. He focuses on running retail insurance P&Ls regionally and setting up and launching regional partnership teams. John has established several market-leading partnerships with digital-first brands regionally. Okay, and then we have Marc. Marc is the head of product development and strategic solutions, Hong Kong and high net worth markets. Marc is responsible for leading RGA's product development and research efforts, as well as developing new reinsurance tech solutions. Marc is also an actuary by training. So obviously, I think some of you in the room are actuaries, and a lot has changed, especially when we move into data AI and ChatGPT. Last but not least, Ben. Ben may be a little bit sleepy, but he woke up as soon as he entered the room. He just flew in from London, and he's the managing director at Novidea, an insurance brokerage platform that's done phenomenally well, and fortuitous timing in your capital raising. Congrats. And he is responsible for leading the company's growth and expansions across the UK, EMEA, and Southeast Asia. I'm going to do something a little bit differently. I know usually we typically wait for questions at the end. I'm going to be looking out. They gave me an iPad. I'm not going to look at it. So as we're running along, if you guys have a question on anything that's shared, just raise your hand, and I'll call on you guys. So the first question, okay, so as I said, there isn't always a common definition. And at the C-suite level, there is. But if you were to go down and talk to the functional leadership, or even step away from Hong Kong, go to Singapore, or go to Australia or the US, what you'll realize is it means different things to different people, right? So the first question is, what does digital transformation mean to you? And please share your respective experiences driving digital transformation. Now, all of you come from different backgrounds, different roles, so please share from that perspective. So why don't you go first?
Yeah, thank you. So running a software company, focusing on insurance, digital transformation is it's a couple of things. It's trying not to do everything, so it's looking at what's standard, not changing everything, and focusing on where there's value. And I think the most important thing is understanding what the principles, the reasons for change. Looking at improved customer value, operational efficiencies, reporting, analytics, whatever it may be, and making sure transformation is true to that. And then finally, even though I'm a technology supplier, technology is just there as an enabler, and it really is around changing the cultures, getting people aligned with the transformation.
What about you, Marc?
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so for me, working in life and health reinsurance, not usually a very tech-heavy industry, perhaps. It's more about moving from a more manual human process to something that's machine-driven, so can be machine automated. And ultimately, transformation, it needs to lead to incredible efficiency and scaling up. So instead of something that one person can do, one thing in one day, it leads to 10x or 100x. So really being able to scale up the technology to multiply what you can do.
Thank you, Mark. And then John, from your perspective, and even from a partnership perspective, in your case, you're working with many different digital natives, right? Non-traditional partners. I think it'll be interesting to get that perspective as well.
Thanks. I think from a partnership perspective, we've had many challenges in looking at how do we transform how we're going to distribute our insurance propositions, and really the focus has been on building out our capability, both people, platforms, in particular the propositions to enable that distribution digitally. And so it's really about, and the lessons we've learned from that is you can't put a traditional retail insurance proposition into a digital channel and expect it to be successful. So we've spent a lot of time and effort building new capability to deliver those products digitally. It's been a big focus.
Thank you. And Mark, from your perspective Michael, from your perspective leading marketing globally.
I think it's a great question. I like this question because digital is such a small word, but it has a lot of sort of confusion around it. And I think from a consumer's perspective, being razor sharp on what you're trying to do in digitalisation is key. And it really comes down to addressing three imbalances. The first imbalance is information imbalance. How do I use digitalisation to shift information from the insurer to the insured or the customer so they're aware of what they're buying, they understand the value of it? The second imbalance is access and making it more easy for people to buy insurance where they want to buy insurance. So shifting from consumers having to go to the insurer to buy insurance and the insurer going to the consumer where they want to buy insurer. And then the third imbalance is an action imbalance, making it easier for the consumer to take action, to quote, to buy, to use, to claim, to prevent. And so for me, I think digitalisation, fixing those three imbalances, information, access and action.
And keen to get your views, John. Like when we look at it from a partnership perspective, a lot of the growth and the realization of that value still is engagement, and there's a marketing component with that. So Michael, from your experience, how do these areas actually collaborate? So if I were to go down the partnership route, so we have digital natives in John's case, new partners, or even within an internal organization, you have the business functions. How do you actually move the needle, right? And it's actually quite wide. If you were to look at marketing and how you transform and utilize data to how you develop the creatives, the engagement, the conversion, there's data there's all of it. How does that all come together? If we really were to get into the weeds of how does that work, what's the complexity there?
The complexity there is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's about mapping it out and understanding what that ecosystem is and thinking across a very standard purchase journey. You know, I'm aware, I'm going to consider, I'm going to buy, I'm going to use, and then mapping it down to this is the whole universe, these are the partners that I have available to me, and then these are the individuals or the segments that I want. And then starting to map it out so you can start to see where those opportunities are and then choosing the right partnership, because it's not just any partnership. And I've seen lots of people going, I've got to have as many partnerships as possible. And it's about the right partnership because it's got to make sense for the partner's customer, if you're going through that distribution, that it makes sense for me to, why wouldn't I buy insurance with that product? If you're just doing it because there's a customer base I want to attack, then you won't get the conversions, you won't get it making sense, which is going to damage the insurer, and it's also going to damage the partner.
John, what is your perspective? And obviously with partners that you form, they also have their marketing strategies. Many of them may have their own transformation as well. How do you collaborate with the internal marketing function, with a partner's marketing function, and then do joint marketing campaigns and everyone at different maturity levels?
Yep. Look, I think at least what we've seen is, you can embed a very highly contextual insurance proposition in path in the customer ecosystem, and that's been successful as as a micro, by the way type proposition. But I think where the investment is going is how do we make this so convenient, and you talked about convenience, but not necessarily just on the front end in the quote and bind, but also the customer journey on the back end. So how, and this is in particular to encourage the repeat purchase, and so we're spending a lot of time building out those customer journeys on the back end to make it so convenient, so contextual, and really a one-click type claims propositions, for example, will have the customer coming back, especially if it's intuitive. So we're working hard on those types of build-outs at the moment.
And Marc, coming from your actuarial background, with so much happening by function, organizations, they're doing all sorts of different types of modeling, using new data sets, ChatGPT, and so forth. Data on its own is a massive transformation, right? And we've seen that. How have you approached this? And also from your perspective, being in a reinsurer, working with life and health insurers, how does that work? And how are you a part of that transformation with your other clients and insurers that you work with?
Sure. So yeah, obviously data is incredibly important for us. It drives our product development, our innovation. It helps us price new risks and develop new products which meet customer needs. A lot of my job in the recent past has been focused on simplifying the underwriting process. So a lot of the guys on the panel are focused on marketing. So, how do you reach customers? Well, my job has been to try simplify the process, so don't destroy those leads that you've got, and make the risk assessment process as seamless as you can. So we're trying to use data to do that. So can we use bank data? Can we use other sources of data to make that underwriting process much, much simpler? We're looking at using new wearable technology, even health checkup reports that people have access to simplify the underwriting journey, to make it as simple as possible. So those are just some of the areas. In terms of monitoring experience and making sure we're a responsible industry, and that we continue to be sustainable, we're trying to automate the experience analysis process, understand that experience as it emerges as quickly as possible, so to update pricing, to update products, make them more appealing as well.
And Ben, from your perspective, being a brokerage insurance platform, I'm sure many of the clients that you come across too might be in the middle of a transformation. There may be also cases where they see what you have and they realize we have to totally revamp our business to be able to bring in this capability and really leverage and maximize the potential. So how do you typically approach this with the various organizations that you work with?
Yeah, it's a good question, and we work with carriers as well as brokers. Often it's very, very rare. It's a green field and they have no technology there and no data and sources. So we always come in midway through a journey. And again, it's understanding what's important, the principles, having easy to do business, greater customer value always come up. And then it's looking at what's there today and how does Novidea, our platform, fit all the way around that to make a seamless journey. And we're seeing more and more. It's not just around how do I do a great quote and buy in a sales experience. It's the claims, having an amazing claims experience in a portal or however you touch on the customer. It's another sales point, because the value provided as an insurer is the claim. And if that's a great experience, there's an opportunity to have a point of sale there as well. So what we tend to do is sit across the estate. Transformation isn't about changing everything. It's about prioritizing and changing in pieces. What we do is sit across that, so we help bring it all together and provide value to the customer. And we can do everything across the whole insurance cycle, but often we don't, and we leverage best of breed. And not just technology, it's just data sources. Part of great customer service is having the right information for the customer to make a decision, the broker, the underwriter, the actuary, and it's bringing all that into one place as well.
And obviously you can work at different speeds, right? You have some I'm sure, some carriers that are slower, some can move faster, some are more agile, waterfall. How do you strike that right balance?
And this is why you prioritize. But and that's it. It's that classic. We work in our R&D fully agile. We find typically insurance companies aren't set up to do that. It would be too much disruption for their business, their processes. So we tend to work, I think with any transformation, it's really important. We talk about people and cultures. It's to take people on the journey with you. So it's the regular show and tell. It's the feedback loop. That's what makes transformation successful. And and that's how we work with our customers. Right from the start, you agree the principles. All stakeholders agree why the transformation is important to them and why they're going to get value. And then you're constantly playing back against that and adjusting and tweaking so you get the right output.
Thank you. And John, from your perspective, how important is it to win heart and minds in the beginning of a transformation?
Yeah, so I think I've probably gone through a few dozen transformation projects, and lessons learned in that regard was really setting up the projects fairly formally with very clear objectives around the outcomes and bringing in very dedicated digital squads, if you like, to deliver on those projects, and having very strong PMO organisation backing you up, and obviously the executive level sponsorship as well. But the hearts and minds, I mean, I think one of the areas that's really helped us is picking the right partners that have got the same mindset, that we don't have all the answers as the insurer. We can learn from those partners, and they can help us take our teams on that journey as well. So very much a collaborative approach there.
Thank you. And I think it goes without saying, everyone here has been a part of a transformation. All of you have an opinion on whether or not it was successful in your organizations and what could have been done differently. Michael, I'm keen to get your perspective on why digital transformation is so challenging, and also how is success measured?
Look, I think it's challenging, and just sort of why it's challenging is we're essentially asking people to do two things, and I think both Ben and John have touched on that. We don't often focus on the second one. The first one is adoption, and the second one is adaptation. And transformation is always about, let's adopt something new. Let's change, we're going to adopt something new and take something up. But adaptation is really then about, how do I do something differently? And so where we found it challenging, and we were working with an AI platform for the last several years, adopting the AI platform to be much smarter at marketing and much more precise, not a problem, easy. Getting people to change how they worked and that adaptation piece, that's where the challenge is. And being able to focus on both of those is what sort of makes it successful, because delivering something on time, on budget, that's project management success. It's not transformation success. So have I actually been able to take my capabilities from A and now land at B, and land at B with different capabilities? That's the measure of success. And knowing whether you've done it is, I've adopted it and I've adapted to a different way of working.
Thank you. And what about you, John? From your experience, why is it so challenging for the different organizations you've been a part of? And how is success measured?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you're saying, the adaptation is key. I think we have measured, we've set sort of specific KPIs around these transformation projects. A lot of them are external facing. Is the NPS improved? Are we selling more? Are we binding more quotes? Are our service and claims experiences improved? The speed to market for new partner onboarding. Many different type of KPIs that we've established, but very much measurable. That's been the key. But yeah.
So Michael, actually, you hit on a very good point, John. So on the NPS, what I've seen is in some organizations they've done a lot, transformed, but actually they're struggling to lift their NPS scores. Michael, what's your view on that?
Human beings don't always behave the way we would like them to. And certainly what we found in a lot of process improvements is you need to find ways to help consumers actually recognise the difference and play it back. And so certainly in banking and in face-to-face channels, you can make information more readily available to your employees to deliver a better experience. You can drive some service experience changes, but you've got to find a way to make sure that you're really tapping into what was that pain point and finding ways to reinforce that I did that thing better with you. And so the customer goes, oh, okay, well, that's fine, because NPS is always, it's stated memory of a transaction, and behaviours doesn't sometimes match. So we found in banking, you could deliver a much better in-branch experience, but if customers didn't actually understand why you were doing that, and people explaining to you as part of that service conversation, we can now do this, this and this for you in a very natural way to reinforce, oh, that's what you've done, that's how you've made that better for you, that's how you've made that easier for me. Then you'll start to see your NPS rise.
Yeah, I think we're looking at also introducing more value-add services to our propositions. So, parametric type propositions in travel, for example, things that will add value beyond just making a claim on the product, because a lot of people aren't making claims, which is a good thing, as far as they're safe and they haven't incurred, had a peril in their lives. But so offering something above and beyond that, for example, predictive capabilities that we can sort of try and address the issues that they may incur when they're travelling or ahead of time. And those value-add services are the things that will stay with the customer and improve the customer experience overall. So,
Thank you. And Marc, I really want to hone in on data, okay? Because data on its own is a pretty large transformation. It does touch on all of these functional areas. But from what you've seen, especially with your actuarial background, working with data scientists, can you share some of your experiences with everybody here on why has it been so challenging, right? And just to give you some more context, even getting the organization on board and helping them to realize there's value in your insights. If you're working with brokers, by the way, you should be focusing on these segments, right? Our data tells us this segment is going to be more profitable, you should go after it. So if you can share with everybody that journey and how do you actually drive success? It's a difficult question, okay? I know a lot of organizations are struggling with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the context is within the life and health insurance industry, we've been doing the same thing for decades. We've priced in very similar ways. We've assessed risk in a certain way. Yes, there's been advances in how much, who we can cover and expanded risk appetite, but the rating factors have pretty much stayed the same. Age, gender, not in the European Union perhaps, smoking status. As soon as you start to introduce new rating factors, you start segmenting customers, and some people are winners and some people are losers. So that means you need to charge more for some people and charge less for others. And yeah, we're in Asia and we want to sell. So there's a lot of underinsurance in developing markets. Southeast Asia, for example, there's, they just want to sell and make the underwriting process much easier. Not necessarily segmenting customers. It's not really a focus. Why would you do that? So anyway, so that's been one key challenge. Yes, I can show you that if I add in, I don't know, marital status, if you're married, you may have lower mortality. But do we really want to charge more for divorced people or single people? Like, is that marketable? So anyway, one area that is starting to take off, and I come from South Africa, and I used to work for Discovery, so I very much buy into the concept of wellness. And so incentivizing people to change their lifestyle. So a lot of risk is behavioral. A lot is genetic, especially when you look at cancer, but so cardiovascular risk is heavily influenced by what you eat, your exercise behavior, etc. And so that seems to be more palatable to incentivize people to be healthier, and they pay less, right? So that is a movement that we see and will continue to see.
And have you come across challenges collaborating with different functions? To do what you just said means that you need to work with technology. You need to work with some of the businesses that have that data. And if it's the wellness, someone holds that vitality data. How does that all come together?
Yeah, so you need partnerships, you need new technology. If we're moving to, again, life insurance, you buy it and those are your premiums maybe for the rest of your life for the next 100 years, or if you have a limited pay product for 20 years. Now we're changing, constantly assessing risk, changing premium rates, offering incentives. Yeah, it can be challenging. Again, people have been doing the same thing for decades, so why should I change this? How is this going to add value? So, you know, we do take risk in changing these things. So, yeah.
Thanks, Mark. And Ben, if we were to hone in now on distribution, you know, I still remember during my earlier days, I was sitting in front of a room of insurance brokers, and back then, data was still new. And Michael, you might remember this from AIG when Murley was there, right? When we set up the whole data science, he was a chief data officer or something like that, right? And I remember a broker raising their hand, looking at me and saying, I've been doing this for 30 years, and you're telling me that you guys just did some analysis and you know my customers better than I do? So in your experience, and I'm sure you come across so many, some carriers are very brokers, carriers, they're all in different levels of maturity. How do you really transform that distribution force so they can really realize the potential of your brokerage platform?
Yeah, so I think the points were made about adaptation earlier, and it's common in every type of insurance organisation. As you said here, we've always done it in that way. We've always made our decisions in this way. We've always priced in this way, and that's the people part of changing for transformation. So if you look at whether it's carriers or brokers, it's making decisions in the same way you've always made decisions. And then you're doing that within a silo, and you've only got so much information. And it's not, so people jump to data enrichment, and I need more of this and more of things. And often we look at it, and it's connectivity across the business. So it's your front office. It's all those compliance checks it is, the TOBAs, KYC, all of those things. It's how you bring in that into your middle office, into your pricing, your quoting, your actuary, bring that forward into your back office and your claims, and it's bringing all of that together. And when you speak to head of underwriting or head of brokers and C-level insurance companies, it just becomes very obvious. And John's talked to this, the answers is to have a fully connected business, break down those data silos, and then that's the adaptation, it's the change. It's making, instead of data, we've used the word data a lot, and we tend to move away from data at Novidea, because data, there's so much data, you just get overwhelmed by data. And what we like to talk about is insight. And if you can take claims and premium and loss ratios and provide that sort of level of insight, not data, to a broker or an underwriter, they'll use it and they'll make more informed decisions.
I think that's right, because a lot of the resistance is change, and people generally, when they think about change, they think about I'm losing something, as opposed to actually saying you're gaining something. So when you're talking to a broker or a relationship manager, it's not that this new person's just come in and they know their customer much more than you know your customer, but what if you could get an insight about that customer a day after it happened, not wait for a week? Not wait for you to call them. If there was a trigger that would allow you to take your knowledge of the customer with this trigger and have the right conversation sooner. And that way, you're actually not making it about losing something or saying you don't know what you're doing. You're actually saying, I can enable you to do what you do so well, faster and better, and be at the right time to get a better result.
And it's about empowerment. So I've got an example of one of our customers, and again, a broker resistant to change. And in a customer's office, so on our platform, everything's accessible via a tablet. Every piece of information in the entire system. I went in to do a renewal, and so the guy goes, I don't care about the renewal. I've got this big claim. What's happening with my big claim? And normally, I'd have had to have walked back to the office, worked out who was dealing with the claim, come back a week or so later. The renewal was on hold at this point. He was able to go in, see the claim, see the FNOL, see the reserves on it, see the claims handler. Looked incredibly empowered and futuristic compared with any of the competition that would be walking into that customer's office, and then go back to the renewal and carry on and close the business. That's the power as well. It's the portability of insight, again, not data.
So for you, what's the ultimate success KPI? What are the top two that you would say, you know what, this was successful. This was a success at this particular carrier or broker. What do you look at?
For us, we want, that's a good question. It's a successful program of work for us is if we set with the executive team of a customer, these are the objectives, the principles. As I said before, it's typically better customer experience, easy to do business, better, more operational efficiencies, more connectivity. They're the things that always come up. Yeah? And it's getting the buy-in from the users, from the underwriters, from the brokers, often more so from the broker technicians, the underwriter technicians, the people doing the grunt work that they need to change. And if they believe in that and you go through the program of regular show and tells and feedback loops, at the end of it you see a visibly transformed business with people adapting and behaving differently, and ultimately the customer's getting more value. And the nice thing that if you have a platform like ours, which is fully end-to-end and reportable on, you can then start benchmarking and seeing the improvements to profitability and scale. So that's success to us.
And I'm really spending a lot more time on this point because many of you guys are probably with life insurers and they're using point of sales tools, different types of tools, whether it be for agencies or brokers. And on that point, because we run focus groups, workshops, and we try to get a view from the distribution force on what they really need. But then what we've also seen happen is that may not always be indicative of the wider entire distribution force. And then the utilization ends up still being subpar. Have you come across that?
So, I mean, we quite uniquely sit across the insurance distribution, whether it's MGAs, MGUs, carriers, brokers. We're also line of business agnostics. We have life, pension, employee benefits, specialty in London, binder schemes. So we see everything. I think it is the same challenges just across every business. We were talking earlier before we came in, and or you're sitting with the COO of specialty business with showing shipping fleets and reinsurance and all the complexities there. That they are the same challenges, and I think between all of us, we've used the same words. Adoption, adapting.
Yeah.
We've always done it like that. It's the same problems and challenges, and again, that's why transformation is so important.
Thank you. Now, shifting gears and moving into culture, obviously an organization's culture is not something you can easily change. And then the other piece is talent. A lot of this change does require new capabilities. So I'd like to get all of your view on that. How does culture evolve? What are the implications of culture? And then when you need to bring in new capabilities, okay, obviously before we came over, we were talking about if you came from a tech company, right, you're walking in multiple sprints, right, versus waterfall on some of our clients. Michael, why don't you go first? What has been your experience on this?
It comes back down to those core ideas of adoption and adaptation and making sure that, you've set a North Star. This is where we want to be going forward. That's the hill that we want to get to. And making sure that you've given people the action framework and then you've given them the tools to take action. And I think that's what drives cultural change, but then also being very explicit. We want to change our culture. This is not just about changing how we do things. We want to think about doing things differently. We want to change how you think, how you work, how you act. And so now we're going to give you the tools to do that. And I think, one of the lessons I learned is I hadn't done the second part early enough. So this is what we want to do. This is where we're going to go, and built-in flexibility because one country works differently to another country. So we had that geography piece put in there. Didn't quite actually make sure that we'd put in the tools and spent the time to then talk about how to adapt. And so by not doing that early enough, the lesson for me was I didn't drive that way of thinking, that way of working change fast enough. And so then it was a bit of a catch-up. So I would always say, think about being very explicit in, we want you to do things differently. We're going to give you the tools to do things differently. And if you fail, that's okay. Fail fast, stop, continue, start, and give people the framework to change to the culture so that they buy into it. And I think that sort of would be the lesson for me.
And John, perhaps for you, we can think about it from a partnership perspective, very different cultures. How do you actually deliver results like in those type of situations?
I think what you were saying about this test and learn approach has been the biggest change, we have to find partners that are willing to go on that journey with us, willing to put product in the market, propositions in the market that may not hit the mark 100%. We can get it to market faster. We can test and learn. We can pivot if we need to, or adjust. We've set it up early on with a different type of partnership approach where it's not an us and them. We're not here just to put product in your ecosystem, and we pay you a commission for policies bound. It's more about this much tighter collaboration. It's about embedding the propositions much more deeply within their ecosystems, and then the optimization piece has been probably our biggest investment. Is we launch it, and then we're spending time monitoring, getting the data insights to make adjustments, and some of those adjustments can be radical. And being able to make those decisions as together has been probably the critical way to set the partnerships up for success.
I think building on that, one of the things we'd also done was create this idea of test cards. So I have a hypothesis. If I'm going to move from doing it this way to now using it this way, certainly in digital, my hypothesis is X will happen. Did X happen? What did I learn? Should I do more of it? Should I do less of it? Or should I stop it? And then you build up a library, and then suddenly you've got 200 test cards. And so everyone's on the same page, and you've actually understood what you're trying to do. And now all of a sudden you've got people who are thinking about hypothesis and critical thinking rather than just rote thinking. And now I've got this idea of critical thinking, and you start to build a flywheel. You start to build this velocity, and all of a sudden you're in a different space, but everyone's got a clear line of sight.
Thank you. And Marc, what about from your experiences there on the culture?
Yeah, like the organization's values are incredibly important, and hopefully they don't change over time, but an organization's culture should and needs to continue to evolve with the times. The best outcomes are when you have people that are open to change and are willing to look for change opportunities within the organization. Having leadership that emphasizes that culture, and someone being entrepreneurial, and people are incentivized in some way to make change. So for example, if we have a transformation project, incentives need to be aligned. People need to if they succeed, they need to be rewarded in some way, either monetary or that promotion or getting their team on the map. So all of these are very important for a transformation project to be successful. And having that culture of doing whatever it takes to make it happen. And that's really important.
And that's a good segue into managing management's expectations. So when you deal with carriers and brokers and their leadership, and here you are bringing new capabilities, how do you manage their expectations, man, on the benefits, and when? Like, is it a quarter from now? It takes X number of months to implement this, and when will you actually see results? How do you manage that?
Yeah, so firstly, we talked about leadership just there, and I think the leadership of insurance companies has changed significantly in the last 5-10 years. And you look at the average age of a CEO or a COO who's typically making the choices, and their expectations around technology are very, very high, and the benefit it's going to provide their business. Now, they may not have the skill set to implement that technology, but they understand from their daily lives the importance of technology in making choices and delivering things at pace. So, answer that question, I suppose. We set an expectations. The expectation is, I want things tomorrow. We're more talking about priorities and how we're rolling things out. And our projects are typically 9 to 12 months, but the big programs are 2 years. So we still buy classic insurance technology rollouts is very, very fast. Even then, new COOs are wanting things in 3 months. So there is expectation management, and again, it always comes back down to what are the priorities, why are you doing this? If you understand why, then we work out how to get the fastest results for them.
Thanks, Ben. I know we're almost out of time, so I want to save the last 30 seconds if there are any questions from the audience. Taking a picture. Okay, I want to thank all of you for joining this session, and thank you all very much.